All right, so this is where things get interesting. So I have my character complete in Makehuman here. All right, and we're gonna switch over to Blender. Okay, so remember that MPFB2 Makehuman Blender extension add-on? I have it linked in the description if you haven't downloaded it already. But we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna need to install that in Blender now. All right, so make sure you go to Edit, Preferences, and click this Install button. All right, and after you've downloaded, navigate to your Downloads folder and then click the MPFB2 Blender for latest zip and click Install Add-on. I've already done it, but when you do, you will notice that it will appear right here. Do ensure that you click that to make sure it's enabled. All right. Once you have it enabled, you'll be able to press in on your keyboard. Okay, and it will appear here. Oh, I do not have my... I'm going to go ahead and delete the default cube. Now, we're going to want to import our character from Makehuman to Blender. Keep in mind, it's important that Makehuman is still running during this process. So, what we're going to need to do, all right, before we go under New Human and click from Makehuman and click this button, before we do that, okay, we want to go to Import Presets and make sure to deselect Import Body Proxy. We don't need that. We want to deselect Import Rig. We don't need that. We want to deselect Use Rig as Parent. We also want to scroll down from Past General to Mesh and V Groups, deselect Make Mask Base Mesh, and deselect Add Subdivision Modifier. We definitely don't need that. All right. And also, more importantly, what we need to do is right here hidden is how to handle helpers. We want to go ahead and select that and make sure it says delete. We do not want helper geometry. All right. Now we need to define the base mesh for our character. Okay. The default, like our actual main characters, permanent, like base mesh, essentially. All right. So we're going to go ahead and click Import Human. Now, for me, it worked right away, but you may have an issue where yours does not import correctly. Okay, here are some ways to mitigate that. Ensure that Makehuman is running at the same time Blender is. If it still doesn't import, try going over to Community, okay, and making sure in Makehuman you click the Socket tab. Make sure Accept Connections is selected. All right. Now, once we have our character imported, we're going to have to define essentially his base mesh with his base expression. All right. It appears I've had another expression selected with my character here. Okay. We want our base expression to be neutral. All right. So let me go ahead and re-import him. All right, so ensure that when you import your character, their expression is set to none. Okay, so we're going to go to Blender. Now I'm going to click Import Human. All right, here we go. Perfect. Okay, once we have our character imported, once we have our character imported, we're going to click this item right here, the main hierarchy, and we need to unparent all of these other meshes that came in with our character, so like the clothes and other body parts. All right, so what we need to do is highlight all of those and then drag them over here to the collection thing, hold Shift and Alt to unparent them. All right, and we're almost there. So now, once everything is unparented and is at the same level in our outliner, we need to highlight all of the meshes that make up the face and the base mesh. This part is very important. We need to join these together, but we need to pay attention to which mesh is the active element when we join, because we're going to have to do this process for every expression that we want. All right. And it's important that we maintain which item is the active element that we're joining everything to. So I'm going to highlight the body right here so that that is a bright orange and everything else is dark orange. All right. And I need to remember that the actual body base mesh is what I'm using. Okay. So when I do Control J to join, now I have my character base mesh. So they're all one. All right. Now we have our character base mesh. Okay. Now we're going to see if we can add some expressions to this guy. All right. This is the interesting part, because what good is a character if we can't give him expressions? So we're going to go over here to this data thing in the properties panel, and we're going to click this plus button to add an initial shape key. All right. Now let's get him some more expressions. At this point, I recommend going ahead and creating a new collection to kind of organize everything and taking all of our character meshes and dropping them in there. Also, let's go ahead and move our main character here back about 1 meter. All right. Now, we have an expression of him just neutral. All right. Let's see if we can add an expression of him that's like happy, for example. All right. We're going to go to Makehuman. We're going to literally change the expression here to, say, smile of 5. That's what I'm going to use. All right. And then we still have Blender open. Switch back to Blender. Okay. Open this panel again. You can press N to do that, or click the little arrow that appeared there. All right. And then we're going to click Import Human. Here he is again. Okay. Smiling though. So he does not need his clothes. I know it's indecent, but we have to get rid of those. All right. And then we have to make sure we, again, remove all of these items here, and we unparent them from the base mesh. So remember to hold Shift and Alt, because we got to keep the transforms. All right. Once that's done, highlight everything. Okay. Now remember, when we joined everything on the last mesh, we ensured that the base mesh was the active element. We need to do that here too to maintain the vertex order. If you don't do this, okay, then when you start modifying the shape keys, you're going to notice that they will not work correctly. It will look horrifying. All right. So now we have a new base mesh, but of him smiling. Highlight these both. Okay. Your main character needs to be the active character, and then go over to shape keys, click this little dark arrow here, shape key specials, and do join as shapes. You notice another shape key will appear. All right, let's go ahead and delete him now. We don't need that. All right, if we zoom in and we go ahead and modify this shape key now, he can smile. All right, that's the essential process for basically getting your character expressions. All right. I like to go ahead and utilize about 5 expressions typically. I like to have a default, happy, sad, and angry, and fear, and then you can kind of merge between those two, okay, to get a different variety of expressions for your character. All right, so I recommend doing at least 5. All right, you can do as many or as little as you want. It depends on how close up you plan to have shots of this character in whatever production you're making. All right. So now that we have the expressions, let me go ahead and add some more, because it's a pretty fast process if utilizing the extension. So I'm going to go ahead and get probably a fearful one. So right here where he's screaming, I'm going to go to Blender. I'm going to import human again. All right, go to my human character. We do not need these meshes, so I'm going to delete them. All right, now I'm going to take these items, highlight them, Shift Alt to unparent them, highlight this, ensure that he is the active element. Okay, the actual base mesh here, the body mesh is the active element. Control J to join, and then finally highlight both of those. Okay, go to these items right here, the vertex groups, why my main base mesh character is the active element, and join as shapes. And there you go. Now I have 2 expressions, and I can basically mix these both together to make any number of expressions. All right, now that we have our character, let's see if we can go and see if we can animate him.